Hi, my name is Justine Johnson, and I will be presenting on a case study for EDL 850 School Law. So this specific case study I could see happening a lot in various schools across the country. Basically at St. Regis School, which is a small rural school, PTA funds were used to purchase new software for use in the computer lab that they had just gotten. The teachers were very excited about this new software. The students were loving it. And so a teacher asked if they could get this software on their classroom computers to use during independent time, which I could also see happening a lot. Teachers want to make use of any resources that they can and any resources that they have. And so, of course, you're just going to pose a simple question of whether or not you can use it. The library specialist, Mrs. Lynn, made copies of the software for teachers to use in their classroom. A PTA member helped Mrs. Lynn make copies and was thrilled to see that their PTA funds were using and being stretched to the very last dollar. A new to the school teacher, Mrs. Brandon, had experience in another district and was familiar with copyright policies and felt uncomfortable accepting the copy. She went to the principal, Mr. Sample, and informed him of what was happening. He pulled Mrs. Lynn to the side and informed her that copying the software was a violation and asked her to collect all of the copies and to stop making new ones. This is a basic violation of copyright, and when considering what resources can and not be used in a school setting, principal must follow laws, specifically the Copyright Act of 1976. A software purchased by the school is protected by copyright. Unlike Creative Commons, copyright is protected federally and copies cannot be made of the software without purchase. The software company which developed the software has the right to sell the software. However, Mrs. Lynn does not have the right to be distributing it. Only the software company does. This is a violation because she just does not have the right to do so. The school must adhere to laws, rights, policies, and regulations for all of their software purchases and use on additional computers. The reproduction of software by Mrs. Lynn was a violation of copyright laws. Looking at this case, it's important to look at the facts and specifically the people, place, and program when you are evaluating what to do as a building leader. If we first start with the place is St. Regis. It is a small K-8 school with approximately 420 students. It is also 25 miles from a large city and very rural. At the program, there's 2 teachers in each grade level and 2 special education teachers, one for lower elementary grades and one for upper elementary and middle school grades. The school does not receive a lot of state funding, and so fundraisers from the PTA provide the school for most of their financial support. These fundraisers are held in usually the fall and again in the spring. So the school does rely heavily on PTA support and involvement. The people involved in this case is Mrs. Lynn, who's the library and media specialist that was making copies of the software, Mr. Sample, the principal, Mrs. Brandon, the new to school teacher that reported to Mr. Sample, Mrs. Evans, who was on the PTA and was helping Mrs. Lynn, and Mrs. Williams, who's an experienced teacher at the school and would like the software in her classroom. Also involved are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade teachers, as the copies were being made for their classrooms as well. Upon synthesizing the facts, you can look at the facts that St. Regis is a small school in a rural setting that relies on the PTA support and funds. When looking at a case, it's important that you look at the people, places, and the program and consider all alleys. Mrs. Lynn was focusing solely on money and the importance of having the software. She was truly looking out for the PTA, for the teachers, for the kids, and she did not ask or research whether the reproduction of software was acceptable. She did not go to Mr. Sample and ask if she could reproduce the software. She also did not do any research on her own. She was just excited to deliver this software. Mrs. Brandon, who was supposed to be receiving the software, was a new to the school teacher but has experience in her old district. She spoke up to the principal about her inability to accept the copies. Mrs. Brandon was fearful that she would make the teachers and PTA unhappy, as she is also new and trying to fit in with everyone at the school. Next, we'll review and prioritize the information in this case. We know that violating copyright has consequences, including jail time, financial damages, and the payment of legal fees. If the software company were to find out, the school district and teachers could all be fined and in legal trouble. Principal could also face serious consequences, as he is there to uphold the policies and violations. PTA money is critical to the school, though. It's important that the school keeps the PTA happy, as there is a lot of funds coming in from the school. Also, when you think about the various aspects of this case, all 2nd through 4th grade teachers need to be consulted about the use of software that has been copyrighted. There are a few possible next steps that I would consider as a building leader. The first one is letting Miss Lynn make copies of the software and letting the teachers use them in their classroom. A possible consequence would be that you would face legal action if the software company does find out about this, or if it is reported. There could be serious consequences. Another option would be to consult the teacher and district handbooks and initiate an investigation within the district. In doing so, however, you need to consider that Mrs. Lynn may feel attacked and blindsided by the action, and she would no longer feel that her principal can be trusted and that her work environment is safe. Mr. Sample has also taken a lot of time to be accepted into the community, and so he's really trying to maintain those relationships that he has built. Another option would be to meet with Mrs. Lynn and discuss the violation of copyright, ask her to dispose of all copies, and discontinue copying the programs. In doing so, the PTA may be upset because the funds are not being stretched anymore, and teachers may be upset because they're not getting the software in their classrooms. When you evaluate your options, I like to look at the options that we have and consider even further what could possibly happen. So once again, one option is to let them continue making the copies and use them in their classroom. The PTA, Mrs. Lynn, Mrs. Williams will all be happy that they have the software in the classroom and the PTA money is being stretched. However, Mrs. Brandon will feel uncomfortable, and if the software company finds out, the school could face serious legal action. The second option was to consult the district and teacher handbooks and initiate an investigation. Mrs. Lynn may feel attacked if she was only really truly trying to help and make everybody happy, but the principal would avoid legal action and know that he or she is making the right legal choice, is protecting the school, and is protecting the policies, laws, and adhering to all regulations. A third option would be to meet with Mrs. Lynn and discuss the violation of copyright, ask her to dispose of all copies, and discontinue copying the programs. Mrs. Lynn will not feel attacked or blindsided by this. I believe that just talking one-on-one with Mrs. Lynn would be the best option. The school would no longer be violating the copyright laws, and Mrs. Williams and the PTA members may be upset because they're not getting copies of the software. I believe the best solution is to meet with Mrs. Lynn individually and just talk to her about the violation of copyright and copyright laws and ask her to dispose of them and to stop reproducing them. And just acknowledge that she was trying to do the best, but that unfortunately it is illegal. And the school, the district, the teachers, there's many stakeholders that could get in serious trouble for this. I think it's just important to reiterate with her that we are all just looking out for the well-being of all adults and children. To implement this process, I would have a one-on-one meeting with Mrs. Lynn and ask her to dispose of all the software and just explain the importance of following copyright laws. And of course, just acknowledging that she was just trying to help, acknowledging her feelings, but explaining the importance of this. I would also meet with Mrs. Williams one-on-one just to discuss the importance of copyright laws. I would initiate a school norm that discourages copying software material and just hold a staff meeting explaining the new school norm and culture, the new policy, and just discuss that this is just to promote student and adult success and well-being. If the chosen plan does not work, I would reach out to my district support partners and initiate an investigation, just so that way I can ensure that the school is not violating laws, rights, policies, and regulations. These are the references that I used in my PowerPoint to thoroughly investigate this case study. Thank you.